Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Movie Crusaders. My name is Sean Wasserkrug and today we're going to be reviewing Dear Evan Hansen. This is a Broadway play that has now been adapted to film. Won a lot of Tony Awards, especially Best Actor for Ben Platt, who's returning to play Evan Hansen in the film. There's been a lot of buzz surrounding this movie about the subject matter. There was a lot of praise about it during film festivals. There was some negative praise about some cast choices in the film by director Steven Chbosky. I want to say I'm saying that right, Chbosky. But yeah, for me, when I first saw this trailer, I was definitely intrigued by the film because of the story that was being entailed, and because of the cast, but also because of the director, Steven Chbosky. I love Perks of Being a Wallflower. It's one of my favorite coming-of-age films, and knowing that he was tackling this film as well made me want to reach out and see this film right away. I also am a big fan of Ben Platt. I really liked him in Pitch Perfect. He's got a great voice, and knowing that he won a Tony for Best Actor for this performance and him returning, definitely wanted to see what the buzz was about with his performance. Also, you got Julianne Moore, who plays Heidi Hansen, Evan's mother. You got Amy Adams, Caitlin Dever, who I love in everything, Amanda Sternberg, which most people know her from The Hate U Give, Danny Pino, Colton Ryan, Nick Dogani. It's a pretty solid cast overall. Now, for most people who don't know what the story of Dear Evan Hansen is, it follows Evan Hansen, played by Ben Platt, who is a high school kid who deals with depression, anxiety. He takes a lot of medications to kind of deal with it, and just kind of an awkward teenager, like most teenagers are in high school. And he by his therapist, he is having to write letters to himself to kind of keep him motivated, keep him happy, try to kind of talk to himself, hey, today's going to be a great day because you're going to do this and this and this. Well, on his first day back to school, it didn't quite go so well. So he was writing a letter to himself, and it was kind of more depressing and kind of one of those, letters we write, if I disappeared, would anyone really know that I'm gone? He writes this at school and goes to print it off, but another character, Connor, played by Colton Ryan, who also is going through a tough time, not wondering if he has any friends, reads the letter and runs off with it. Fast forward 3 days later, Evan's freaking out, wondering what Connor's gonna do, because Connor's sister Zoe, played by Caitlin Dever, Evan has a mad crush on her, and he writes about her in the letter. And Connor thinks that it was basically a kind of like weird love letter to his sister. But we later find out by Amy Adams, who plays Connor's mother, and Danny Pino, who plays Larry, Connor's father, that Connor passed away, and they found that letter on him, and they think that Connor wrote that letter to Evan because they were friends, which obviously this whole misunderstanding kind of downward spirals, and Evan is kind of forced into basically lying, into making people believe that he is friends with Connor, and Connor was this great person, which from the moments that we actually see of Connor in the film, he's not a very likable person. He's kind of a jerk. He definitely has issues. Even the sister Zoe claims that he was a horrible person, and kind of almost to the point where it's her grieving process, but kind of the point that he deserved to die in a sense. But Evan is kind of thrust into this, and because of that, a lot of kind of the spotlight is put on Evan, and for someone who's been looking to kind of be noticed and belonged by people, it's kind of a moment for him to kind of take advantage of and grab, and it's him kind of trying to honor Connor while also trying to kind of benefit himself as well. And, thus the film continues on and on from there. The main thing that is... Actually, let's go with what works with the film. The music, the soundtrack for Dear Evan Hansen. It's kind of weird in a way how they do the music in this film, because it's not a straight up musical. It's not like the movie stops and it's a big dance and song number and all this kind of stuff. It's the first time the singing actually happens. Well, not the first time, but like he's singing to himself in his room, and then he's walking through the school singing and stuff like that. And you're kind of like in the normal musical mindset. It's in his head. He's not really singing out loud. But then we get to the part where he's eating dinner with Connor's family, and they're asking him questions, and he starts singing the story about him and Connor, and they're reacting to the song. And it's one of those things where it's like, is he really singing? Are they hearing him sing? Is he actually just talking about this story and we're just hearing it in singing form? And it kind of throws you in this confusion loop. Like, you're not really sure what's actually happening, what's in his head, or if this really is just a full-on singing number. Then you get to another point where he's with Zoe and he's singing to her again, and then she starts singing back, and it just kind of runs into this weird, awkward kind of situation where it's just kind of uncomfortable in a sense, because you don't really know if the singing is actually happening, and because they're all reacting to the singing, but they're reacting as it's like a conversation. And the songs as well, very powerful songs. The dialogue in the songs are powerful. They are definitely songs worth listening to, but also because the songs are done in almost kind of like a dialect form of a conversation, there are certain parts of the song that are softer than others because they're whispering or they're hiding their voice in the middle of the conversation of the song lyrics. So some of the songs are very powerful and very well sung. There's not really a really bad singing performance. There is one song I'm really not a fan of, and that's kind of a three-person song between Evan, Connor, obviously in a fantasy state, and Jared, played by Nick Dodani, that I was not a fan of because it really felt kind of wrong and out of place for what was going on in terms of the story. Like, I get what they were doing, but it just didn't feel right because of the Jared character and what his lyrics were in the song. But it's just kind of weird. And the other part of it is, too, is that the Ben Platt's character, Evan Hansen, the main problem you're going to run into, and this is the main criticism that you're getting with this film, is that Ben Platt, fantastic singer, obviously he did the role very well. He's 28 years old. He's playing a high school student. Now, granted, this is not the first time we've seen people who are in their 20s play teenagers. Half this cast are 20-year-olds playing high school students. But Ben, they do something weird with Ben in this film, and that is really the crux and the downfall of this film, is that they, for some reason, Steven Chbosky decided, let's put prosthetics on his face to, I guess, make him look younger. And Ben Platt's not an ugly kid, an ugly guy. He's a decent-looking guy. And frankly, I think he could maybe pull off a senior in high school looking like his normal self. But they give him these prosthetics on his face that honestly looks like two things. One, he looks like Jesse Eisenberg. And two, it looks like he's having an allergic reaction throughout the entire film because he's all puffy and it's all like right here, and it's very off-putting, and it's creepy, and it's kind of uncanny valley throughout the whole film, and he is on screen 90% of the time, and you're just forced into these close-up shots of him, and it was really probably it's probably ranks right up there with CGIing the mustache off of Superman in Justice League, because it is just the worst decision you could possibly make with this character, and it really kind of just puts you on the back pedal when watching this film, because when he's singing and he's trying to put all of his passion into it, he just looks crazy because of the prosthetics, and he's like eyes wide open, mouth open, and he looks insane through most of this film, and it's very hard to get behind Evan Hansen, A, because of some of the character choices that he makes throughout the movie, but just because of the way he looks, and it's not because Ben Platt's an ugly guy. He's not. It's the choices of putting this crap on his face. And I really don't understand the reasoning behind it. I don't know why they thought this was a good choice, and why, A, no one stopped them and said, guys, this looks horrible. He looks bad. This doesn't make him look younger. This makes him look scary. And that is the ultimate crux that downfalls with this film. Because it's like, it just... You'll know it when you see it, and I'm obviously as I'm talking, I'm showing you pictures of what he looks like. It is literally the worst decision of this film. Also, the melodrama of this film, like some of the stuff that, like character choices, especially a certain choice that Alana, played by Amandla Sternberg, makes near the third act of the film, is so selfishly ridiculous that it's like, like as soon as you see like the crux of it happen, you're like, Clearly this character's going to do that, but the motivations for why the character does this certain thing is so preposterous that it just makes you ultimately not like her character. And she never really kind of gets her, I don't want to say comeuppance. It's not like it's an evil thing that, oh, she deserves to get, payback for or anything like that. But it's just, there's never like an apology for doing it. And it just seems wrong. And even a character like her, as we've gone through the journey of the film of her character, she knows better. She 100% knows better. But it just feels such like a selfish choice to basically kind of pat herself on the back for trying to get this one thing done, that it just rubs me the wrong way. Also, you got the cliche things in high school that I've never understood. I couldn't understand, where you're walking down the hall and something's happened to you and literally everyone stops what they're doing and looks at you, whether you're walking down the hall or you're in the cafeteria, and everyone basically is looking at you. I'm sorry, I went to high school. That never happens. And I hate that that happens in these movies. No one stops what they're doing all in unison and just looks at you and is judging you and talking to you. Because A, no one's ballsy enough to do that, especially in a full-on room. And I hate every time they do that in these films. There's also these three jocks. They're always trying to take selfies, and it just feels just off-putting. And like I say, it's just character choices that certain character choices that even Julianne Moore's character does or Amy Adams does. The only character to me that really felt true, and honestly, the only character I had no problems with throughout the entire performance of the film, is Caitlin Dever's Zoe. Her character has many levels and character development she has to go through from point A to point Z by the end of the film. And her character is the only character I feel like the journey was earned and well developed throughout the film. Not saying that Julianne Moore, Amy Adams' characters, or Danny Pino's characters don't have a good journey, because they do. It's just, but there's certain character things that they say or do in certain situations that maybe just go, why are we going down this path with them? There's also a certain situation, and it's tied into the Alana character's decision that she makes, where the internet fully turns, and it just felt unnecessary. It felt unneeded in the film. This is one of those films where, yes, in a play on Broadway, this works probably fantastic. It works really well because of they're on stage. This is definitely not a movie that transitions to film very well, like Cats or something like that. Had it would work better if it was full-on musical, maybe, or if it wasn't a musical at all and it was just straight dialogue, maybe. But there's just something that doesn't gel well in this film. Could it be because the whole story is about Evan Hansen trying to matter and make himself feel important, when the real story should be about Connor and suicide? And there's this one point in the middle when he does the big auditorium song, which you see in the trailers, that really does feel great. It feels important. It feels like the message is there. And you have the, I don't want to say it's a cliche line, because now in all these shows and movies you're seeing this a lot, where it's like, we're all the same. We all have issues. We all have problems. You think you're the only one. You're not the only one, which is a very important message, and I'm not knocking that. But in the beginning of the film, you're hitting those messages, and they are working. They're going well. But by the time you get to the third act, it all starts to kind of feel like bullshit a little bit. And the songs, like I said, they work really well. But another thing is Nick Dodani's Jared's character, could not stand him. He's in there for comedic relief, but he's just an asshole. And he's an unlikable character. And I don't find him funny. And I'm sure in a full-on theater, he's probably going to be very funny. But his dialogue and his word choices, they're just mean. And I don't think it was an enjoyable character. It was a character to me that felt tacked on for comedic relief. That really just felt kind of, not necessarily a waste, but just did not feel needed for the film that we were watching. Overall, when it comes to Dear Evan Hansen, there's good stuff there. Ben Platt, when he sings and he's putting on his performances during his songs, you see the character that won him a Tony. He is giving his all when he sings these songs, and you can see the pain and the torment and all this stuff that Ben Platt's going through as his performance with Evan Hansen. It's when he's not singing and he's doing the acting along with Caitlin Dever, Amy Adams, Julianne Moore, and the rest of the cast, where it kind of just feels off-putting and creepy. But when he's singing, that's when you really see the magic of what his performance was, probably on Broadway, which didn't have all the crap on his face, and he also didn't have the curly hair looking like Jesse Eisenberg. It sucks because there's a potential of a good film here, but there's just a lot of wrong choices and a lot of bad choices and over the top melodramatic crap that is not necessarily needed in this film. Like I said, the soundtrack I think is done. The music is really well done in a lot of parts, minus one song in my opinion. But overall, this just kind of feels like a mess, and I feel like a movie with this kind of message or importance in terms of suicide and depression and all that stuff really probably should have been handled better. And with the right director, this should have been done. He did it great in Perks of Being a Wallflower, but for some reason, and I don't want to put it all on Ben Platt, but really he is the crux that makes this whole thing fall apart. And a lot of it is because of what they chose to do with his face. So overall, would I recommend Dear Evan Hansen? No. I'd say get the sound, listen to the soundtrack, listen to the music, try to find maybe the play in some form or fashion, watch that, don't watch the movie. Even though I hate to say that, because Caitlin Dever kills it in this film. Julianne Moore kills it in this film. Amy Adams is really good in the film. There's no real bad performances. It's bad dialogue. It's bad director choices. It's bad just direction in the way the film was shot. It's not anything wrong with the people in the film. So I can't necessarily recommend you guys going out to check this out. I would say listen to the soundtrack, listen to the music, listen to the lyrics. That is the most important part of the film for me. But yeah, going to my overall score, I'm going to give Dear Evan Hansen a 53%, which technically is a C because I enjoyed the music and the soundtrack. And like I said, the performances are all good. They're all there. It's just not executed the way it should. And by the end of the film, you're just put in this weird space. You're not feeling, enlightened. You're not feeling, good about the film because it's still kind of in a negative position. Like the character Evan Hansen, yes, has he grown by the end of the film? Sure, but it's not like, oh, it's a happily ever after kind of thing. It just kind of puts you in a weird place by the end of the movie, and I don't think that was maybe the way it should have gone. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on the Movie Crusaders. Of course, remember to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next week, we've got The Guilty on Netflix with Jake Gyllenhaal, which looks pretty fun, and also Venom 2, which I hope is good. I was not a fan of the first Venom, but I'm really excited to see what Woody Harrelson's Carnage is like in this film. Plus, Andy Serkis is directing it. So I'm definitely going to check that out. So there'll be reviews for that. And of course, Brian Michaels and I will be back once again for the Weekend Crusaders, where we talk about 5 movies that come out during that weekend in movie history. So we're going to look out for all those videos. And yeah, until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.